What's going on, everybody? It's Matt with American 4WD. Hope you're having an awesome day. Today, I figured it would be a perfect day to give you a buggy update. So, without further ado, let's go straight into it. Ta-da! Should look a lot different than the last time anybody's seen this thing. Yeah, it's completely pulled apart. So I want to go over kind of what we've done so far, the plan, and where we're currently at. So that way everybody gets to see it and check it out. So, first thing is the axles, well, pretty much the entire suspension came out of it. The coilovers are dead, meaning there's no charge inside of them. The control arms, all the heims are pretty stiff. We need to break those loose. It's been sitting outside for a long time, so there was a lot of rust buildup, so we're just going to clean those up, get them loose, get them freed up, and of course, if it's all jacked up, we'll just get some new stuff. One of the bigger things we've been dealing with is the axles. So if you notice, let's zoom in. Those are the axles right there. So let's just go out there and I will show you. We have learned, or not learned, but we have found out a lot of stuff about this buggy besides the initial looking at it. So it's a lot. So here are our axles. So this is a Dana 70. This is a Dana 70. This is out of some sort of 70s truck. Couldn't tell you what. More than likely a Dodge. So the initial idea was to grab that 14 bolt. Have I told you guys about the 14 bolt? Anyways, so we weren't going to use these. These have 456 gears, front and rear. This has a Lincoln locker. That is just nothing. But it looks like somebody beat the ever-loving crap out of the carrier for some reason. So trying to find brakes for this and get a kit going or custom screw relate something together was just going to be a big pain in the butt. Dana 70s are strong. They're just a bear to find parts for and blah, blah, blah. So the plan was go ahead and get a 14 bolt from the junkyard, which we got one. And I'll show you that here in a minute. Take this truss off, take all the brackets off, and swap it over to the 14 bolt. Well, the truss is, I thought it was kind of like a universal truss. It was not. It was homemade. And it was bad homemade, so we're not gonna do that. They welded it over the breather tube, so that was fun. It's just a convoluted mess. The front axle is actually worse. So what this is out of, let me rotate it for you here. There we go. That looks more familiar, right? So what this is out of is a 1973 Dodge W300. And this is also a convoluted mess. They had kind of a janky full hydro kit on here. The truss is homemade. The coilover brackets don't even match. This was a drum brake front axle. Somebody has converted it to a rotor and caliper situation and just welded the calipers to the knuckles. The rotors aren't even the correct size. The upper and lower plates for the kingpin have been welded onto it. So that's fun. The steering arms have been reinforced very redneck. Just terrible. Somebody does not know how to use a grinder properly. It had something attached to both sides, and I have no idea. I think this guy was bent, or maybe he broke these off and then re-welded them on. It has a spacer on here. That's good. It has other things welded on, like this either half-inch or inch piece of steel, and they had janky, probably pinion guards connected to it. Let's see what else. This is very heavy, guys. Yeah, it's just a mess. It's just an absolute mess. So anyways, I thought that for version 1.0, we were probably just going to use them, just clean them up, get them kind of working. But, I mean, they're just so much of a mess. It would take more money and time to get these two right and get them situated than it would be just to swap them out and get something else going on. So, let me show you what we've got going down. There's probably going to be grinders and stuff and everything, so keep that in mind. So the first thing is that I'm pretty sure I've shown everybody, but we went over to the junkyard and bought this engine. It was out of a wrecked 89 C10 or K1500, I'm not sure. But anyways, we took it apart, gave it a redneck rebuild, and she looked great. But we did a whole new timing whole new timing set, new seals, new intake manifold. We cleaned it all up, relashed the valves. We've got Holley's off-road specific 670 CFM off-road carburetor. So we got that on there. So we are swapping to gas instead of propane. And pretty much it's all done. All we got to do is stick the oil pan. We got to get a new oil pump. Stick the oil pan up there, and we've got our distributor, which is right y'all. Stick that in there and shove it in the buggy. Now, as far as our rear axle, this is our 14 bolt. So this is the truss off of the Dana 70 outside from the buggy. And you can tell, I thought this was a kit. It's not. It was just homemade. And it's not gonna fit. So instead of trying to reuse these parts just for now, to get it up, get it going, I don't feel comfortable doing that right now, so we're just not gonna do that. So we called Artec. We've got a whole actual truss system, 2 new upper links, 2 new bottom links, 2 new coilover links, or mounts. Good to go. So we're just waiting on that. But everything internally looked great. It had 410 gears and a LSD, which we'll be changing all that out to probably a spool and probably 456s. All right. If you noticed on the buggy as well, the transmission and the transfer case are out of it. We took this apart just to make sure everything worked and everything was good. As far as the transfer case, it was yummy. It definitely had water in there, but it still had gear oil in there, so there's not a whole lot of rust buildup. Everything can be cleaned up. Everything looks pretty decent. The only thing about the transfer case is this. This is where the front drive shaft connects. So if you can see that, that's not good. So what we've done is we've ordered a new shaft, and instead of this 10 spline shaft, we've ordered a 27 spline shaft. So this whole shaft that goes through there will get replaced. But these gears, the forks, everything else looks pretty well and good. So transfer case, good to go. As far as the transmission, same thing. The drain plug was out of it, so there was no gear oil, but at the same time there was no water buildup, but there was moisture getting in here for God knows how long. So as you can see, the gears are pretty nasty, but a lot of this can be cleaned up. A lot of it is kind of rusty gear oil. It's not actual rust buildup on the gears. It'll come off. And so we've got to clean all that up. There's no teeth missing. Everything seems, all the bearings seem really good. So, hey. The forks, on the other hand, that had the most amount of moisture on it, that did get a little crusty. So you can see it kind of comes off. But it got pretty crusty. So these 3 shift forks, they're on these rods. They slide in and out of these holes on both sides. We're having to free this up. Luckily it wasn't rusted long enough to create pitting. Like pretty much all this comes off. So that's good. There might be a pit or two here and there, but as long as it slides freely, like that one's really nice. So as long as it slides freely, rock and roll. Shifter, the bushing is absolutely tore up, but that's okay. And somebody welded just a rod with a giant socket to make the shifter. So we had to cut that off to get the transmission out, and that's the end of the shifter, so with the socket. So we just, to get that out. As far as the rest of it goes, it's not bad. It's not great, it's not bad. Could be a lot worse. We found some things that just could be redone, could be made better. So we started doing that. We've started cleaning the cage, so getting all the rust off the vehicle as best we can. So all this surface rust and things like that, we're smoothing that out, smoothing it down, and then as long as the welds look good and everything's happy, then we are spraying primer over it. That way it doesn't flash rust again. We've got the cluster out. We've got the, like I said, engine or transmission transfer case. We have all the wires off the vehicle. They didn't look terrible, but they don't look great either. So there was a lot of like butt connections and splices and things going all sorts of which ways. So instead of trying to reuse the wires, I mean, there's only a handful of wires that this thing needs. We're just going to rewire it. So some of the welds were missing. So good thing is we took all the panels off and we started kind of deep diving into this thing. Some of the tubes weren't welded to the tubes, so we had to go around, weld those. The ends were not capped off, so we created caps, welded those on, trimmed them down. There was more welds that weren't welded, so we had to do that. Yeah, here we go. That way you can see. So we made caps for it. This weld wasn't sufficient, so we welded that and made sure that was all happy, hunky-dory, blah, blah, blah. As far as the frame goes, the frame's in good shape. Like I said, we've been cutting, grinding, making it all nice and flat and smooth, and any sort of holes that needed to be filled, we made caps for, welded that to it, blah, blah, blah. And she's looking, honestly, and I know a lot of you are saying, wow, that still looks like shit, but we've actually put a lot of work into it so far, and this is actually a lot better than what it was. So we've got that going. Some of the stupid stuff was the gas pedal was just welded to the firewall, so we're gonna unscrew all that and everything else. And this whole dash is gonna come out because it's just tack welded on, and that just looks like crap. But a lot of the welds that were on the inside and the outside of the bars our one looked like crap. So this is the original welds that we got it with. It just looks like crap. It's not really thick, it's very small. So I started going around the whole vehicle and started really giving it, trying to sweep between both pipes all the way down. That way it gets good penetration. They're a lot bigger and it's a lot safer. So anytime that we went around and started, getting better penetrating welds, cleaned it up, welded it, sprayed primer over it, that way it doesn't flash rust. But yeah, just getting bigger, better welds over everything is pretty much the name of the game right now. So all of this, I went up here, this whole weld up here was barely hanging on for dear life, so I went ahead, grinded it down, and then I'm not cutting it out, I'm not cutting the old weld out, I'm just grinding it down and then going over it. So a lot more penetration and just a lot safer of a vehicle, especially if we roll this over, which we will. So all of that I've welded up, got welded. So at this point, now that the coilovers, the engine, the transmission, the axles, everything's out of it, we can drop it all the way on the ground, and that way I can start doing some overhead welds. And as you can see, it just looks like crap. As far as version 1 goes, I think we're just going to try to make it as best as it can with what it has. And then version 2.0, we're really going to do some, we're going to up the game and really going to do some nasty stuff to it and just make it a lot better. But for now, if we can get it, non-rusty, get it running, driving, moving, go have some fun with it for a little while, be safe enough to, or feel safe in it, in case we roll it over, which we will, hey, that's the goal. But yeah, all this we had to clean, get all the rust off. We're gonna have to redo some stuff up here, not necessarily because it's bad or anything's wrong with it, just to make it nicer, cleaner, blah blah blah. You get the point. These pods are, from Amazon. They're just jacked, so we're gonna change those guys out. So yeah, we're just cleaning it up, spraying it, doing our thing. So the next step for the Buggy is we're going to be getting the front axle. So we have the rear axle ready to go, besides gears and a spool. We'll just keep the stock shafts. This thing doesn't weigh squat. I can move this thing. I can probably pick it up. It doesn't weigh anything. Now, of course, engine transfer case, fuel cell, 2 seats, 2 riders, and all the doodads. Put a lot more weight into it. But even with all that said and done, we might be adding 1,000 pounds, maybe less, so of sprung weight. So we need to get the front axle, and we need to figure out what we're going to do with our coilovers, because I think the springs are way oversprung. Check these things out. So these are all our control arms. We've labeled them, we got them out, and like I said, they've just flash rusted, so maybe we can clean that up and get them lubricated, get them going. But if they're just too jacked up, then we'll replace them. But I mean, some of them I think will come back, like this one and that one. I think they'll come back. But our coilovers, Jesus. So the remote reservoir hose is on all of them is pretty much coming apart. I don't think these springs are correct. I think it was oversprung by a lot. But they are severely deteriorated. So not only do they need to be rebuilt, yeah, see, they're starting to free up. Not only do these need to be rebuilt, but they need to be recharged, and more than likely it's going to be the incorrect spring rate. But the good news is, since we're changing the front axle and the rear axle and putting all new mounts and everything on it, we can change where the mounts actually sit on the axle, and get the height dialed in, get the angles of the coilovers dialed in, get the angles of the axles dialed in, because it was just all off. Oh, so these are our drive shafts. So these two guys was the rear, and that's just the front piece of the front. So the actual body of the front drive shaft is gone, but that's fine. That doesn't matter. We'll get all that dealt with. But these are 1450 joints. So that's pretty big, pretty beefy for something so lightweight. Again, this doesn't weigh squat, and it's going to be so much beef, it's going to be kind of overkill. But yeah, we are slowly just knocking it out of the park and getting this guy back to decent condition, and or at least a fun toy. This isn't $100,000 rock bouncer. This is, the goal here is to make a running, driving, fun buggy for less than $10,000, which nowadays that's hard to do. So that's why we have junkyard this, junkyard that. It's been fun going to the junkyard because every time it's either cold or rainy, so that's been fun. But yeah, I think this combination is going to work great. A small block 350 with a Muncie's 4-speed, a Chevy 205 transfer case. Oh, speaking of which, we've got twin sticks for the 205, so that's going to be fun. We're going to be able to disengage the front, or I'm sorry, disengage the rear, do front digs, all that fun stuff. So that's going to be really cool. But 205, a Chevy 205 transfer case, 14-bolt rear. The front, that's kind of our issue right now, trying to find a Kingpin 60 and a passenger side drop. Kingpin 60 is like finding a needle in a haystack. And when you do, ouch, it hurts. Ouch, it hurts. So we're going to see if we can't find a Dodge. Dodge makes a passenger side drop, Kingpin 60. There's one online right now, but again, ouch. So we're going to try to figure that out. But yeah, that's our next step. Is we're still cleaning this up. We've got a lot to do. We started playing with some color combos. Let me know what your thought is. Black and gray, or we've also talked about lime green and white and red, white, and blue. We've talked about everything. So if you have an idea or you want to see it in a certain color, let me know and we'll think about it. We might do it. But yeah, we've still got a ton of work to go. You can see some of these welds, they're just not there. So we're gonna grind that off, put a new weld over top, that way it's nice and safe, and continue getting this rust out. There was a lot. It's been sitting outside. We found out this buggy was probably made in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was probably wheeled for a couple years and then sat. So it's been sitting for probably over 10 years, just outside under a tree. There was, that thick of organic matter on the floor pans that we had to shovel out. So that's why the floor pans kind of look like poo. But again, we're going to clean all that up. We're going to try to save as much as we can. But some of this stuff was just completely rotted out. So we're cutting it out. We're mending it. We're putting a new piece in there. You won't be able to see this with the seat in there anyway. So it'll look halfway decent. We got to cut those out to make room for our fuel cell. We're probably going to go with a 15-gallon fuel cell, aluminum, and that should do that. But otherwise, yeah, we're just going to town. We've also played with red. We sprayed red on it, thought that would look good, and then we said no. But you can see what we're doing. I still have a lot of welding to do, but we're just going over everything, making sure those welds are nice and pretty, and doing the thing. That way we don't die. You can definitely see how big the welds we're putting on it compared to what it has. I mean, that is drastic of a difference, and that's just sketchy. So that is a lot better, a lot stronger. It's getting way more penetration, and you're actually getting weld between both tubes instead of whatever that is. Yeah, that needs to stop. Because we will roll this over, and it will be dangerous, and we will need to make sure that we are safe. It's the cage is made out of mild steel. It's a thin wall. Not thrilled about it, but at the same time, we can fix that later down the road once we get our pipe bender and all that other fun stuff. But guys, it's a going. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Any questions you got, let me know, and I'll answer it. Guys, I appreciate it. See you later.